Western Spring Television, ours it is.
Hello, good morning, and thank you so much for linking up with us again on Morning Spring, reaching you from Western Spring Television, where we give it to you as it is. Thank you so much for waking up with us again this lovely morning, and we said to take you around the polity again, help you have a deeper understanding, better insight into the issues affecting us as individuals. Femi Olanikweku is my name.
And I am Emmanuel Ujiadugere. So good to have you join us again on the program this morning. Very beautiful Wednesday morning, and we hope you are making the most of it and getting ready to get into it as a Nigerian. You know, we keep surviving and we keep pushing every day. As you know, we have about 3 segments of the program. We take the newspaper review, we take our interview program, and of course, you'll be joining me later on Spring Trend. So we'll go straight into the newspaper review. But before we do that, a lot of things are happening in the world at the moment. And the rainy season is finally over.
It is, but we still have some, we call it sprinkles of rain yesterday here in Oshogbo, in bits and parts, in different parts, of the city. But it's finally going over. I mean, just tapering off, and then we are here fully into the dust, and that's what I dread the most.
So what do you make of our preparedness to handle next year's rainy season in light of this year's extreme flooding? About 600 people died. Over 300 people died, millions displaced. A lot of persons are just returning to their homes.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, that may no longer have structural integrity.
In states like Bayelsa and some other parts, the water just receding, people just returning to their homes. Well, I do hope that we'll learn from it, actually, because this happened before, around 2012 and thereabout. And so we hope we thought we learned from that one, only for this to happen. We do really hope that we'll learn from these. Well, you remember, in fact, some weeks back, where the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs doing, a list or a league table of the most affected states. Saying Jigawa was most affected, and people of Bayelsa had to cry and say, that was not fair, and actually even called for a resignation. But we do hope that the mistakes we made here, the missteps we've made, we'll learn from it, so that next year's rainy season will be better. And perhaps we also work better with the Cameroonian authorities if that's part of what caused the debilitating effect of the rain this season, and ensure that our people can sleep with their 2 eyes closed during the rainy season next year.
Let's hope that we do that. Before we do the newspapers, we're now in the dry season.
Yeah.
This is the fire season, as it were. So do you think that people have learned their lessons so far?
Well, so the people and also the government. So now is the time for us to do well, to check more. We've had a number of fire incidences here in Oshogbo, in Osun State. We do hope now that government at the state and the local government level will look more into the fire service and perhaps help them, strengthen them, and then do more awareness. And for our people also to be conscious, to be more aware. This is a dry season. We need to be more circumspect. We need to be more careful going forward. One thing I dread the most about the dry season is the heat. I prefer the cold to the heat.
Because you can cover. But for the heat, you can't go around naked.
Oh my goodness, not funny at all. So let's do the papers, shall we? Let's start this morning from Emmanuel. What do you have?
Yes, we'll begin with The Nation. Talking about the country. So The Nation newspaper is where we are starting off this morning. We have on The Nation, the banner headline says, Oil, Buhari warns against Niger Delta mistakes in the north. Buhari warns against Niger Delta mistakes in north. Our president inaugurates integrated oil business in Gongola Basin. Tinubu, I will recharge Lake Chad if elected. And that's the banner headline. We have some other headlines that says, while Jonathan cannot back Atiku by Wike, PDP candidate humiliated ex-president in 2015. And Ondo 6 investors for Sunshine Stars, Oyo Oke's promotion of 1,629 workers. Down there, you have the rider NYC names Uba as acting DG, and petrol scarcity bites harder in Lagos. Buhari is warning against Niger Delta mistakes. And
Yeah,
what
it's
mistakes did we
important.
make?
Yeah. Oh, a plethora of mistakes. You're asking me what mistakes we made?
Well, what mistake did my people make?
The mistake of the militancy, the mistake of environmental degradation, the mistake, so many mistakes. The mistake of taking the people's resource, spending another part, not giving adequate attention to the people, where these resources actually come from. So many mistakes, and it's good that the president is talking in that light. That we should not, make this mistake. But I mean, another, conversation will be around the viability of the oil discovery and the oil drill, in the northern part of the country. Is this economically viable? I've had many people talk about it right from when NNPC started spending money. Some experts are of the opinion that we should ordinarily not be spending that much as a government. A government should not be spending on exploration. That the likes of Shell, Chevron, and the like should be the ones putting their money. So government can make money from licensing rounds. Government can make money from JVCs and what have you. But here we are. It's good. I hope it's economically viable. I hope we have IOCs coming into the fray, joining, and then you're doing well to participate and actually bring out the oil. But then, as per the mistakes, we need to learn really from it. We need to do better for the Nigerian
especially
people.
in the light of insurgency in the north. We hope that the infrastructure will be safe. That was my concern the first time I heard about oil in the north. I kept wondering, we have banditry, we have terrorism, internal terrorism and insurgency. How is the government? That's going to be more resources spending or being spent on securing the infrastructure, securing the people who will be working there, because you can't leave them to chance.
There's also more money for government. It's more revenue. If it works out, fine. It's more revenue. But there's something called the resource cost. For every resource, would be gold, be it oil, there's an attendant, especially in the third world, in most African countries, there's an attendant, security implication, criminal activities really in it. So even for gold, the banditry in Zamfara state was tied to gold, excavation and exploration at some point. So we do hope that we have better models, like what we have in Norway, very peaceful country. The government, saving a lot, even borrowing. You need to check their sovereign wealth fund, in countries like that. We do hope that we get things right here, though. But it's important that the president is stressing that he is likely not going to be the one to preside over the the exploration or the mining of the oil. I mean, we would have left in a few months. But it's good as he's giving that warning at this stage.
Well, still on the Nation newspaper before we move on. Governor Wike of Rivers State is in the news again.
He is always in the news. He's a newsman.
He's been talking about the PDP, and we did mention yesterday about the IPDP.
Yeah, the integrity
PDP.
Now like the NPDP of 2014.
Now it's saying why Jonathan can't back Atiku. Says the PDP candidate humiliated the ex-president in 2015. I just want to know, what exactly does Wike want? The milk has been spilled.
Well, so I mean, depending on who you ask, some people are of the opinion that Wike is petulant. Feels so much entitled. And there are those who also feel, well, what is right is right. Let him fight for his right. I mean, so we're asking for equity, justice. It depends on who you ask, really. But it appears that Atiku and his gang have moved on. So perhaps Wike should also move on. But I heard Victor Umagi, the governor of Bonyi State, saying he would like sort of applying to join the G5 to be G6, and that'll be interesting. It's from the APC. He used to be of the PDP, it's crossed over to the APC. But Wike evidently has other plans other than ensuring that Atiku becomes president.
Yes.
Perhaps he's still smarting from the loss of the PDP primaries. But if you ask many other people, they'll say you should move on. But I mean, so why that is happening, if you ask many APC chieftains, they're happy that is happening.
Yes.
Because it serves them, it serves their purpose, and so why not? Let it continue.
Let
but
them
for
continue
PDP
to
members, many are worried that this has dragged on for this long. And we should actually, they should move on. But let's see how it drags. I mean, it's news for us journalists.
Petrol scarcity is hitting in Lagos.
Well, so I do hope that we're able to put a lead on that. I mean, get to fix it permanently. We are entering the Yuletide. It's just a few weeks away from Christmas. We should. If it's happening in Lagos, then you wonder what's happening up north, in the far east. I just hope that it doesn't spread to this. But I remember that there is a huge disparity, as per liter what is sold in our filling stations across the
Yes, yes,
country.
yes.
From the official pump price to what many filling stations are selling. So if you check some of the big players, the major marketers, you see long queues each time they have fuel. But the other ones sell at 220,
Yes, so
200.
while I was going through social media yesterday, I did see someone say they bought for 250 naira, and
Interesting.
that speaks to the fact that we do have a pending crisis in our hands if we do not solve this issue, and we hope that Pengasan and Nupeng and all those bodies, they've not really been going on strike. We just hope that their hearts are remain calm and nobody instigates them to go on strike this period.
Yes, it appears that the issue of the dollar, the naira crashing against the dollar, because we import this. And I think at the road, the final solution would be for us to be able to refine,
By
petrol
ourselves.
right here in Nigeria. Because by the time you bring it out from outside, you calculate the cost of, importation, the different fees that you put on it, and many
And then
other
the
issues like,
distribution channels again.
so it adds up to it. So that's why many are banking on Dangote refinery. But there's some others who will say Dangote is a businessman.
It's a
For God's
business,
sake.
but business
He's
first,
going to
profit
sell,
first.
so he's going to do profit. But let's wait and see. We do hope that we are able to manage that. We should not be having, recurring petrol scarcity here in Nigeria. It's shameful.
All right, before we go to the Punch newspaper, let me just take this one. Still on the Nation, documents on 2.2 billion naira, the SWF missing. Ministry tells Senate. Well, it will be interesting to know what ministry is missing document on 2.2 billion naira. Remember yesterday, the humanitarian minister said she doesn't know how 206 billion naira entered into our ministry's budget. And now a particular ministry is telling 2 billion naira.
Oh, so they can't find the
They
documents.
can't find the documents are missing. That's what you're saying here.
Or is the money missing as well, or is only the document?
It's just the document. And if you can't find the document, you can't account for expenditure.
You never know. Perhaps it's only the document that is missing. Maybe the money is still intact, but it's only the document. Because the minister yesterday said, 206 billion naira found its way into our ministry's budget, and he couldn't give an explanation as to how. Then you won.
Who put it there?
Did he walk? Crawled?
It must have crawled or disappeared. We're in a country where snakes swallow money and monkeys kidnap bags of money.
See. Interesting. Okay, so we do the Punch newspapers now. The banner headline here is Talking Finance, a 16.5% interest rate. Private sector predict factories shut down, higher bad loans with the riders. CBN interest rates hike will increase manufacturers 5 trillion naira debt. Monetary policy tightening will worsen inflation. That's from Nasima, 16.5% interest rate. That's huge. The private sector is fearing the worst, saying factories could shut down, they could have higher bad loans and all of that. Well, above the nameplate, or just beside the nameplate, new Naira notes for circulation before December 15. So we get to spend a new coexist side by side with the old Naira notes until the end of January 2023. So they will coexist, and then those old ones will be phased out. So above the nameplate, Atiku Abubakar Obi tackle APC on governance. So Bola Tinubu, the APC candidate, has also met Khan. Obi has met Khan. So I think Khan is also meeting the candidates to know what their plans for Christians. So interesting. So it's right above the nameplate. Also, you have it's late to resume voter registration. Court rules. It's late to resume voter registration. Court rules. Some other medium reported that the court ordered INEC to resume until 90 days. This headline seems to be somewhat different. Perhaps you can get to read more about that on page 2 of the Punch newspapers. And Emmanuel talked about the field queues. while I was reviewing the Nation newspaper, FQs resurface in Lagos. Marketers blame depot. So we have a reason.
Yes.
So the depot. So if you ask the depot owners also, I'm sure they're going to give you excuse as well as to why they had to increase. Well, just down here on the front page of the Punch also, Punch demands 25.1 million naira judgment debt from CBN. Lots of judgment debt. I wonder. I'm not sure most Nigerians pay attention to what is called judgment debt. And I think the Ministry of Justice oversees that. Lots of monies most times awarded against the government. And most, I'm not sure how much of that is paid. So Punch
if
is
they
also
are paid
claiming.
at all. Because that's also a case on its own. And do they even pay? Does the government say, okay, we've been awarded, the court has awarded 205 million naira against us. Okay, we'll give you 100 million naira. We'll take 105. Is that okay?
And so how do you actually follow up? How do you prosecute? Or how do you ensure you get the money? So if government is not willing to pay, most times how we do with court cases, how sometimes government do cherry pick what judgments to obey and adhere to. So the government awards a certain amount to you. Who follows up? Who ensures it's paid?
Well, according to the law, there are two parties in the enforcement of a judgment: the judgment creditor, that's the person being entitled, and the judgment debtor. So the statement by Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, that was about a year ago, says that it is incumbent on the individual who was awarded to follow up, to ensure that your money is collected. That means if the court awards you 5 million naira, for instance, it is your job to continue to press it on the debtor to give you the money. But unfortunately, if the debtor happens to be the government, they could use paucity of funds as an excuse and all of that. And in fact, interestingly, as at 2019, the Nigerian government had about 150 billion naira debt.
As of 2019. So you
can imagine how much
it
has increased to. So it is incumbent on the person, on the creditor now, to ensure that they get their money. But we know how bureaucracy works in Nigeria.
Well, interesting. So on page 42 of the Punch, impeached Ekiti speaker heads for court. So 2 speakers in 1 week in Ekiti State. We spoke to the impeached speaker on a radio channel yesterday, and it was hell-bent. He insisted on fighting for his right, and accused frontally the former governor, Kayode Fayemi, of being behind these travails. He said he called them before and then told them that this is a person that should be the next king. In fact, he said that was the day the former speaker was buried, that they received the call to report to the house of the former governor, right where they were in church, for the burial of the former speaker. The man had not even gone finally before he started making
Probably was still
moves.
on his way to,
quite some very dark, interesting part of Nigeria.
It shows a lack of respect for the dead. I mean, you should allow the dead get on their transport in Greek mythology now. Get on the boat, cross over to the other side before you begin to do anything.
Definitely you need to feel that space. But so it was from that, and the impeached speaker said he stood up and objected to the instruction that their parliament and the party has no business instructing them on what to do. And he went on to win the election, but he was impeached just a week after.
Well, I think it also speaks to the fact that here in Nigeria, we're still very much stuck on godfatherism.
Yeah.
If someone wins an election in the House of Assembly, it means his colleagues wanted him to be speaker. But if the governor is not in agreement, he wants to put his own person there, then there's a problem. That means you don't even respect.
He's not even the governor in this case.
You're an ex-governor.
So he's not the governor in this case. It makes it more interesting. It's the former governor.
So what happens when the sitting governor says, I have a third candidate, or I have someone else?
So have you also asked yourself, what's the position of the current governor? Does he have a position?
Well, he's trying to play his game straight, trying not to get into trouble. I presume
Yo,
that's what he's trying to do.
You know the game.
He wants to be a fencerian, sit on the fence.
You understand the game. There is still a case at the tribunal.
Yes.
It's a second time to be won. You know how these things work. Okay, so on pages 4 and 5 of the Punch newspaper, we have Abuja Bauchi crashes, kill 44, FRSA plans mass burial. And quickly, because of our time, Buhari inaugurates $3 billion oil exploration project in the Northeast. Man, I talked about that earlier on in the Nation newspaper. Quickly, the last paper, Emmanuel.
Yes, Daily Trust is the other newspaper that we have here this morning. And the banner headline is still about oil in the North. Komani drill attracts 1.33 trillion naira investment. As President Buhari saying that the Komani drill attracts 1.33 trillion naira investment. That's on page 4 of that newspaper. You have 1 billion oil barrels, 500 billion cubic feet of gas, exciting new facility to have refinery, fertilizer plant, more oil discoveries in Anambra, Sokoto, and others. And you have displayed largely there the picture of the president commissioning that oil exploration exercise. Still on the Daily Trust newspaper, 66 travelers killed in Abuja, Borno, Kogi, Plateau Road accidents. I'll implement your demands, article tells CAN leaders. Hold politicians to their promises. Obi urges Nigerians we won't be partisan, says the CAN president. You have that story on page 12 of the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. Why we adopted co-regulation, media owners, that's on page 4 of the Daily Trust newspaper. It will be interesting to see exactly what the media owners mean there by co-regulation. Race to Nas, Bagudu, Alero in Titanic battle for Kebbi Central. Alero in Titanic battle with Bagudu for Kebbi Central. That's what you have on the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. You have still in captivity, interestingly. That's just on top, below the nameplate. Still in captivity, 11 schoolgirls of FGC Benwin Yari and one student of Bethel Baptist High School, Kujama, spent 497 days in captivity, and the 11 schoolgirls of FGC, Federal Government College, Benin Yauri, have spent 524 days in captivity.
Sad.
Very, very sad.
Very
sad, especially when you look at the fact that the government keeps saying they're winning the war against insecurity.
I mean, so we can win the war if some of those kids are still in captivity. If kids like Leah Sharibo are still in captivity, the war will be deemed not to be won. We need to. Winning the war means we're able to bring back all of these lovely kids who spend some very horrible time in the hands of those
abductors. Yeah.
Okay. So.
Yes, I wanted us to end on a lighter note. We're hearing that Saudi Arabia has declared a public holiday because of the
it's how do I put this now? It's well deserved.
Yes.
I mean, that was one of the biggest shockers in World Cup history.
Yes.
I didn't get to watch the match, but then I saw the report and I felt it was why to be April? Oh, they said it was April Fool. What Saudi Arabia.
Of all countries. I mean, they didn't even win the Asian Football Cup. They didn't even win the Arab League. The Arab Cup that was won by, I think, Algeria. Algeria are the reigning champions. So how do you
Saudi Arabia beat almighty Argentina
with Messi, Di Maria, Rodrigo de Paul.
How did that happen?
I hope Nigerian football team is watching. Fix a friendly match with Brazil and beat them 5.
No.
Okay.
You're missing the point.
Okay.
Who's the coach of Saudi Arabia?
Javi Renard, yes.
Javi Renard did the magic with Zambia. You remember, won the AFCON. Did the magic with Ivory Coast. Won the Nations Cup.
To the
so
finals.
There's something special. I think he's actually the real special one.
Yes, well,
Javi Renard.
That's the real special one.
Yeah,
he has the golden touch. He has the golden touch.
So I mean, that was one of the biggest shockers. And so for the Saudi Arabian national, for the Prince or the King, declaring a public holiday, it's well deserved.
Yes.
The guys should celebrate, and I think they're on their way to the next round. But I do not hope. Argentina came into this tournament as firm favorites, one of the favorites, I should say. So where does this leave them?
Well, it leaves their fate hanging in the balance because they still have to play Mexico, who have a god in the post as a goalkeeper, and they have to play Poland, who have Lewandowski.
Robert Lewandowski.
So it's a problem.
It's a problem. It's a problem. Well, that's it. So let's take this short break. When we return, we'll be bringing in our guest on the program this morning, Morning Spring, on Western Spring Television. Please remember to follow us on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, and watch us live. You can watch us live right here on YouTube. We'll be back after this break.
Hello. Can you hear me? Good.
All right, thank you so much for staying with us. You're on to Morning Spring, and it's reaching you from Western Spring Television, where we bring it to you as it is. Remember, you can follow us on Instagram on Western Spring Television. On Twitter, it's Western Spring Television. Do well to also watch us live on YouTube on Western Spring Television. Well, we have our guest with us in the studios this morning. Our guest is a former National Deputy Publicity Secretary of the PDP, served the party at the highest level in Abuja. He's a member of the transition committee set up by the governor-elect of, Osun State, to be coming into power on Sunday. And he's also a senior member of the party, he's a chieftain of the PDP, he's a journalist, and he served as a spokesman to a former governor in Nigeria. That's talking about the late Governor Adebayo Alawa Akala of Oyo State. Our guest this morning on Morning Spring is Prince Diro Odeyemi. Thank you so much for joining us on Morning Spring, sir.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
And let me use this opportunity to congratulate you on the opening of this new outfit.
Thank you.
It's my first time of appearing.
Yes.
And it's very lovely. And I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Well, so, just some 4 days now, Emmanuel.
Yes, 4 days.
I mean, 4 days.
We are counting down 4 days to. I'm talking about the
inauguration.
Yes, I mean of the incoming governor, Ademola Adeleke. But you've been around for a long time.
Yeah.
You are served as a journalist. I'm sure you're still a journalist. I doubt journalists do retire.
No, we don't retire.
So you are the pioneer chairman of the Correspondent Chapel here in Osun State. You've seen administrations come and go.
Yeah.
And if I ask you, do your opposition, ask you to do an assessment of the Ayatollah years, how would you say the last 4 years has been for the state?
Yes, talking about the personality of Governor Ayatollah, we give it to him. He's a complete gentleman. And there is somebody that appears to be very, harmless. I can use that word. But when you are talking of his achievement and administration generally, I want to believe that his performance is below expectation. And it is very difficult to take, as a whole, his 4-year administration without looking back to his time as the former chief of staff to Aregbesol's administration. So I want to take it back that, as a whole, both of them spent 12 years. So I would not want to assess him on the basis of, spending 4 years in office.
You won't do a standalone assessment.
No, that's exactly what I'm saying. I want to combine it together. And if you look at that, I want to believe that the outcome of the election speaks volume. If the people of the state are happy with the way they have been governed, I want to believe that they will elect him again as the governor. But the people are tired. They did not see the performance there. If you want to look at it from the area of education, the state has not moved from that position 2029 in the WAEC assessment, which is an indication that education sector has failed woefully. And we put it to them that education is not about gigantic buildings. It's not about the failed Okmoimo that was introduced that was never tested. They were all introduced as a means of fleecing money, the state resources, scarce resources, to somewhere else, to private pockets. We did criticize it. We said a lot of things about it. Nothing was done. But today, I'm not sure you can see a single appointment anywhere. And this is part of the achievement they lay claim to. So in the education sector, it's a complete failure. And what can you say about that sector? Virtually nothing. I don't know. We have sat down to look at them, in terms of, what have they contributed to their sector. Yes, we saw ambulance. For what effect has that?
So the government just talked about completing, some structure at Ashubiaro. Is that lost on you? I mean, what about the PHCs that were renovated, that were revitalized? That's the word that government uses. I really don't improvement. I mean, do you not consider this as achievement?
It's not about renovation
or revitalization.
It's not about that.
You don't agree with
how many administration? How many people can visit the health sector or health department in this state and get adequate treatment? You see, that is exactly what I said when I said, they believe in building gigantic structure and, use that as the achievement in the education sector. It's the same thing they did in the health sector. Giving work to contractors to go and paint some buildings is never an achievement as far as I'm concerned. You see, achievement is not about the physical thing people can see. It is the benefit the people can derive from such achievement. So you are mentioning that, they renovated, rejuvenated some health centers. It doesn't end there. How many doctors were there to work? How many nurses were there? How many drugs were provided? Can you go to any health sector in Osun State and say, yes, you come out satisfied that there is a government that really took care of you? No. So to me, well, they have done their best, and the people of Osun State have spoken with their votes. You have done enough. Thank you very much.
Okay, so you acknowledge that the governor is a gentleman.
Oh, he's a gentleman. Yeah,
and so he seems to
I
be
give
an
that to
honest
him.
person.
He's a gentleman.
But so looking at it, critically across all sectors, is there any area where you give him a pass? You say he's done well, perhaps will continue from where he left off in that area, or build on what he has done?
Well, while coming here, I could see that they have started the road from Lameko to this place. We can't overlook that. It's an achievement.
What about the bridge?
What about
the bridge?
Yeah, you see, when you cross the bridge, you see, when you look at the bridge and use that as an achievement in 4 years, and you compare that to what other governors, especially like Governor Wike in Rivers State, have achieved in terms of bridge and everything.
Money with Osun money.
If you are telling me we cannot compare, there should always be a kind of a percentage or leverage to it. If Rivers State was able to build about 11, 12 bridges in the state, then there is nothing wrong if we can say in Osun State we have 2, 3. So why is it only the one from one which is even less than a kilometer in Oshogbo? Why do we now take that as an achievement in 4 years?
Talking about the bridge still,
Yeah.
Some may want to make excuses based on resources. You know, we just mentioned Rivers State. Rivers gets 13% derivation from the federal government, and the Osun government has been complaining about being broke. Paucity of funds. This is a civil service state. The IGR allocation from the federal government. Do you still think that, in light of the monies coming in, the state, the government has done a little bit, at least that you may be able to commend?
Part of the achievement of any government is to raise the internally generated revenue. Part of the achievement of any good government is to ensure that they do business outside the government and ensure there is more money to execute the projects. If you are promising the state a lot of welfareism and infrastructure, you should think of the way to get the money. This wasn't what they promised the people of Osun State when they came in. So if at all we are not going to compare Rivers State with Osun State, there should also be some level of achievement. Yeah, if I'm telling you, if Rivers State is able to build about 12 bridges, it is not out of place if in Osun State we're able to have 3, at least. When you are comparing the state allocation to what comes to Osun State, yes, I agree. But that is not to say that only one bridge will now be the measurement for your achievement in 4 years.
It's only one bridge, but there are several other roads. I mean,
yes, the
several other roads. The
Kilebe,
and some of the other
Road
roads, the
has
Aleko,
been
Owena
commissioned.
roads.
I've just said that. I said, well, in terms of road, he did a little bit.
So if you're giving the governor a pass mark in terms of roads, a little bit.
Not only roads. As you said, let's say the general assessment. 35%.
35%. That's in the D region. It's not
35%. Because if he was able to get 60%, perhaps he will return as the governor.
There was also, let's talk about returning as governor.
Yes.
The APC chieftain, one of the chieftains, Oluomo Sunday Akere, blamed the national, circumstances, people being angry with the party at the national, as a factor that contributed to the loss of the APC in Osun State. Do you think if that had not been an issue, your party would have stood a chance?
I want to tell you that we did not have any pact with any APC leadership in Osun State. And perhaps he is referring to former governor of the state, Rauf Aregbesola.
No, I mean, I guess that was about, the feeling of the average Nigerian about
the Buhari administration.
It has got nothing to do with the people of Osun State. Of course, well, it may take certain percentage of the votes, but the people of Osun State assess them on their performance on ground. And we always say this. It wasn't that PDP lost the last election in 2018. We won.
You won at the first ballot.
At the first ballot.
But if not
for the abracadabra or the toggery introduced to the issue of rerun in 7 polling units, which was a game planned to ensure that we did not win that election. We won, and the people of Osun State put their trust in their delegates. And that was the reason why they said this time around, instead of having a rerun election, we will overrun you with our votes. And that was exactly what happened. 20,000 plus votes is not an easy task in Osun. So we won outright. Forget about, they are going to court. It's just a gimmick to hold on to their supporters. Simply because if there is no tribunal going on, they wouldn't have a single member as APC in Osun. But with this, they are able to assemble some gullible ones to think that, yes, they can still come to power, whereas they know they don't have a case. It's politics. We know ourselves. We know the game. That is the game. And that's what I'm telling you now. They are at the tribunal purposely to hold on to some membership of their party because of coming elections. If not, you see, Immediately after the election, they have started blaming themselves. Some said, yes, the money released, for electorate or for the election process were not utilized by their leaders. You had it, on videos, on audio and everything. They are flying, they went viral. They started blaming themselves. They accepted the video. They knew everything. But the tactics or the system is should always be a way to hold on to these people, or else once they leave, then Tinubu will not win election in Osun State, and our House of Rep, House of Assembly, and senators will not have a way. So the best way is let's give them hope that they can still come back to government by going to the tribunal. Nothing is happening at the tribunal. Nothing.
We'll come back to the assessment of the government. You're a member of the transition committee.
Yes.
And you opened your remarks by saying that the governor is a perfect gentleman.
Yes.
But we've heard reports of a rancorous relationship between your committee and the current government in terms of transition. How do you reconcile those two things?
Thank you very much. You see, I've been a special advisor to a governor in Oyo State, late Governor Alawo Akala. And I know how personalities at the top position function. If you have people, if they are overwhelming in their advice that, yes, we lost this election, but we should not give these people the opportunity to rejoice. Stay off this transition. Let's see how it goes. One of them told me that they got annoyed simply because of the accusations leveled against them immediately after we won election, that, they have started looting, they have started paying contractors, whereas they have not done it. But now that we said it, they started doing it. So at times it is not the personality of the leader, of the leadership, or the personality of the person that is heading the government. It is the people that surround him that gave him this bad advice. And this is why I think he didn't act well. He didn't act well because there is nothing wrong in a government being voted out, another one being voted in. It happened in Ekiti when Dele Fayose lost an election. He called Fayemi to his office. This is what I've done. This is what I have not done. This is the area that I think you can do better. That is democracy, and that should be the relationship, not in a situation whereby we wrote several letters to the governor that can we meet you, can we discuss, not a single response. We said, it's a normal norm in a democratic setting that when the government is going, you set up a transition committee, whereby the two committee, the membership will meet and discuss about the liabilities, asset, and whatever that is in the government. But in this case, they have not done anything. They ignored all the letters written to them. Nothing was done. And we formed our own transition committee just to give our new governor the lead way, to expand more on our manifesto and how to implement it, what we want to achieve in 100 days, how we want to do, the daily course. So we were able to achieve a lot through that, but not a single person from the government answered us.
So how well informed is the governor-elect about the workings of the state if the current administration has not briefed him or they've not had a sit-down?
There is official information, there is unofficial information. It is not the ghosts that are working in the secretariat. There are people of Osun State. Even in the governor's office, even in the government house, we have supporters in PDP. We have people who believe in Adeleke. They will always give you information. We know, in fact, we have pictures.
But how credible? I mean, how credible will unofficial
information?
Because it's interesting now.
You see, once you don't have an official information,
yes,
you make do with unofficial one, but with some benefit of doubt, or with an opportunity for verification when you get to office. If you are telling us, yes, they have looted the government house, we have some pictures, we have information. It's a matter of getting there on Monday to go and see it physically. If televisions, other things were looted in the house. So once you have unofficial information, it will give you at least an idea of what to check when you get there. We have people of Osun State working in this ministry. They are not ghosts. The accountants, everybody, we know what goes on there on daily basis. Even ordinary cleaner can give you an information. Your driver can give you a vital information because you will not be there. You will not be where he will be. So we have information. Call it unofficial, but it will still lead us to something good when we get to office on Monday.
Before I hand you over to Femi, you've been using the word looted.
Yes.
What exactly do you mean? Based on your unofficial or whatever reports you've gotten now, what do you mean? What accusations are you leveling against the government in terms of looting that you've been mentioning?
When I say this, I'm talking from experience. I worked in a state, I worked in Oyo State with late Governor Alao Akala. And when we were voted out of government, there were some people who wanted to start removing even aircon from their houses. When we got to office, we were given what do you call it, furniture allowance, running to almost 4 million naira, to furnish your house or to do something. These are government properties. They were listed. But people out of poverty or out of ignorance think that once they want to leave office, they just must remove the television, remove the AC. Some even went as far as changing tires of their cars, of the official cars that were good into their private one and replacing it with their own private one with the official cars. Some even went as far as, changing the engines of these cars. We have mechanics, we have people who give us information. So we are talking of looting, we know what we are saying. Just yesterday, we learned that some generators were removed. We have pictures of it.
Are you sure about all of these? Are you sure they're not just the normal Nigerian way of politicking, leveling allegations, forcing the opposition or the other side into a defensive position?
I agree with you.
Yes.
I agree with you. You are saying the obvious, but we come out with facts when we get to office from Monday.
So there are no facts on the ground now. You're just trying to put them on the defensive now.
No. We have facts on the
ground.
You're
trying to preempt what they plan.
No, not at all. That is exactly what is going on now.
So what evidence have you as to looting? What have they looted exactly?
I've just mentioned generators.
Generator of which ministry?
Even
but there's still officials of government in there. So what would they be using if they've looted the generator?
You're a journalist. Why don't you go around and see the quarters yourself? Go and see what is happening to the quarters, because many of the commissioners have moved out of them. And we have civil servants who are in charge of this quarters. They have started reporting to us. That in some quarters, we are aware that the government that funded it, that furnished it, but they have removed the AC, they have removed the television, they have looted the kitchen, they have looted, this is an evidence of poverty.
That's in
as far as I'm concerned.
So there are several statements been issued by the spokesperson of the governor-elect, accusing the state government of, perhaps
paying contractors,
making appointment, auctioning cars.
Yes.
Is there any truth in all of those allegations?
We will come out with facts from, as soon as we get to office. This is a normal thing they think they can do in politics. But some of us who are clean and who come into politics with clear mind, we point this out and use it as, as an example of a bad politicking. So let's leave that until we get to office. We have informations. We have said a lot. People have fed us with a lot. When we get there, we do the verification.
You've been accused. The PDP has been accused of harassing Arangoin the party. PDP, APC chieftains, the electoral administration officials have said, whether we lost the election or not, we are still in government until the midnight of 26th of November. And so whatever we do, we are acting legally. Why is the APC, the PDP, overly anxious and, in their words, harassing the APC administration when its time is not yet over?
You see, there is always this bad politicking of thinking that there are some banana peels for us to step on when we get to office. It is clear that they are doing certain things, just to unsettle the incoming administration. Look at the local government election that they conducted. This is an administration that has been in government for almost 4 years now. Why is it that it was when they lost the election? Why is it that it was few months to their departure that they now think they can, conduct local government like? Why not look at it like that, from that way? There are some pending traditional issues. There has been some towns without kings. But now they have started installing kings. They have started promoting them. Some from second class to first class, thinking that when you get there, you cannot revert it. You run into problems if you want to do this. There are some people who perhaps were due for promotion several years ago. They didn't remember to promote them. They didn't remember to increase their salary. They didn't remember to pay certain contractors. But because they are going now, they now suddenly realize that all these contractors must be overpaid. All these civil servants must now be promoted. All these are indications that this is bad government that is not at peace with incoming. Let me give you another one. We are supposed to do the swearing in at the stadium on Sunday. APC fixed a rally for Friday. In fact, it was on Saturday before, because according to them, they still have 12 midnight on the 26th. And because of that, they wanted to have their rally on that 26th in the afternoon. Whereas we are supposed to enter the stadium, do the decoration, the musician and the stages and everything was supposed to have been put in place. How do you want to reconcile that?
So you're saying you have information that APC has fixed a rally for
that? It's open. It's open. We reported them to the security agencies. At the end of the day, they were able to shift it from Saturday to Friday because the police are even involved in this now. They have to do a parade for they have to do a practice parade for the incoming governor. So they now said, okay, you cannot have it on Saturday. It's better you have it on Friday so that we can have access to the stadium on Saturday. How do you reconcile that? Is that the government that wants peace or want incoming administration to have peace? So they are so petty with a lot of things. And this thing started even from the campaign era. When you wanted to use the stadium, you used the stadium 2 days before. We were to use it the 3rd day. All of a sudden, you came up with an excuse that we cannot use the stadium. They should give access to all citizens to enjoy what you are enjoying.
You find it petty?
Very, very petty. Very, very petty. And it doesn't grow our democracy. And it doesn't give the government a good name. And if they did not realize it, it really got the annoyance of the people of Osun State that even contributed more to their loss. You see, live and let live. Politics is not the end of the world, it's not the end of life. You lose an election, you can still come back and win. So why do you think because you have lost, you must make life difficult for the incoming administration?
Well, so, we're due for a break, but I should ask you this before we go on, because when we come back from the break, we'll be talking about how you intend to turn around Osun, what are the plans, and then some of these last-minute decisions that you've railed against in the last few weeks and months, what do you intend to do with them? So the local government election that you talked about, we'll ask you what we intend to do, and then the appointment as well, what do you intend to do? But let's talk about the politics of your coming into power. You've been in politics for a while, so I'm sure there are dynamics to it. There are alignments and realignments in the build up to the election. There is the public perception in Osun that a faction of the APC worked actively with you, had an agreement and actually supported you actively, whether covertly or overtly, but that there was an alliance between an APC faction and the PDP. What agreement do you have with them? What post are you giving to them in this new government?
I can tell you sincerely, there wasn't any agreement with any individual.
But perhaps no written agreement.
Not even verbal agreement with anybody.
But was there an understanding? If there's
no understanding.
But you worked together.
Not that we worked together. Let me put it this way. We benefited from their crisis. We did not cause any crisis between Aregbesola and Oyetola. What Aregbesola was saying that, we executed these programs and this administration together. But when you were there, you did not suggest to me that they were bad. But when you got there, you were doing a contrary thing to eradicate whatever I put down as a legacy.
So there is no agreement.
No agreement at all.
Prince Odeyemi, we'll come back to that when we return from this break. We'll take a short break. We still run to Morning Spring, and it's reaching you from Western Spring Television. We'll be back. All right, thank you so much for staying with us. It's on to Morning Spring. It's reaching you from Western Spring Television. You can follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter of Western Spring Television. You can also watch us live on YouTube on Western Spring Television, and watch us live also on Star Times DTT channel 190. And we still have our guest with us here in the studio this morning, Prince Odeyemi, former Deputy National Publicity Secretary of the PDP and a member of the transition committee of the PDP set up by Governor-elect Ademola Adeleke. Well, so just word on that break. I was asking you about the agreement you had, or the public perceived that you had with the APC faction. I mean, I'm talking about the regular faction here. Many people believe, so the Deputy Director General of your campaign is a former APC man, defected, to the PDP. But then in some other towns during the election, there were insinuations and there were people who established the fact that many APC stalwarts worked for your party, and they make reference to Ejigbo. So tell me, what kind of an arrangement do you have if it's not an agreement? Prince, tell us the fact. What sort of an arrangement do you have with them? What are you giving them in return for helping you to power?
No arrangements, no signed on the MOU, nothing like that. We only benefited from their crisis. And as a good politician, you just have to study events and circumstances to know where and which area you can come in that will benefit you, electoral-wise. Now, look at it this way. We knew quite well, if you know Aregbesola very well, Aregbesola will never join PDP. He will never join PDP. But there was a crisis between himself and Oyetola. And we are aware, and the whole world is aware about the crisis. So the people who were supporting Aregbesola were ostracized from government. They did not allow them. You are even aware of the fact that at the point in time they took themselves to court. They fought somewhere. They arrested some people for fighting another faction. And they even took them to Ilesha prison. So this, the factionalization was so major. And in politics, nobody likes to sit on the fence. It's either you remain in APC or you join PDP. So what happened was, when they knew they were not in Oyetola's government, they need to have the opportunity to go somewhere else. And they found PDP, that PDP is better. So
for
they
those
came
who
in.
left, like Halimi.
Like Halimi,
Okay,
yes.
so for those who stayed back in the APC,
Yes.
and to some other members of the APC on the Oyetola side, they said they played the spoilers game. And
Well, that is politics. That's their problem. It's not our problem.
You don't have any meetings with them?
No, not at all.
Not with Najim Salam?
As I'm talking to you now, some people are defecting to PDP tomorrow. And the chairman is accepting them to the party.
From the APC? From the APC.
So political party has an opening and exit doors. You are free to come in, you are free to go out. PDP door is always open for people to go in, for people to come out. And there are some people that we even forced out, just like we did to what's the name of this guy that took us to the Supreme Court that contested against Adeleke? Babayemi. We forced him out of PDP because we don't want his likes in our party. So what I'm saying in essence is, do we now blame us for accepting people who are not happy where they are into PDP? It's political strategy. And at the end of the day, we use all that, the combination of everything, to defeat them. So if their internal crisis, it doesn't affect us in any way. And we are not moved. We did not create the crisis for them. The crisis was created for by themselves. That is the issue. No agreement. No sharing of position. Nothing was mentioned. Nobody is sure of what is going to happen in PDP. That was the spirit. We work with the spirit of winning the election first. After winning the election, we now look at issues and personalities that are fit, to assist the governor-elect in governance. So no sharing of posts, nothing whatsoever. Nobody knows what he's going to get. Nobody knows who is going to be this, who is going to be that. There wasn't any arrangement other than the governor, the deputy, then the elected officials. What I mean, the candidates, the Senate, the Rep, and the House of Assembly. All others will work for the success of the party. It's only after the success that we can now sit down and say, yes, who are fit, who are the people, who have the qualification, who have the experience to assist the governor in executing the manifesto and the projects at hand. So there wasn't any arrangement, any sharing of position, any MOU with anybody.
Not even with labor.
Not at all. Not at all.
No, perhaps we'll come back to that.
Okay.
Yes, perhaps we'll come back to that. And it's still interesting about how your party came to power. Before the election, there were some internal wranglings. You just talked about benefiting from the crisis that rocked the All Progressives Congress, the ruling party. But your party also had some internal wranglings. And how were you able to manage that did not cost you the election?
There is no political party in Nigeria that does not have internal crisis. And where you have 2, 3, 4, 8 coming together, even in families, you do have misunderstanding, you do have crisis. It is the resolution mechanism that you're able to apply that will thicken your party. And that is the grace we have in PDP. We have a systematic system of resolving our crisis. Once you go out of that or you derail from that trend, then you are no longer following the constitution of the party. You have shown yourself to be an agent of destruction And that is when the party will now show you the way out, like we did to Dr. Babayemi. So all the parties must have the APC's crisis consumed them. Our internal crisis, we were able to manage it to some extent, through which we were able to achieve electoral success at the end of the day. So crisis is bound to happen where you have human beings coming together for a particular purpose.
You've talked about expelling or chasing some persons out of your party.
Yes.
What if, for instance, or for example, they have a change of heart and decide they want to be prodigal sons and return to the party? Is your party willing to accept those persons?
It's normal in politics. We have seen people who defected to APC, assisted the present president, President Buhari, instead of assisting Jonathan to retain in office. Today, they are back in PDP and they even formed the leadership of the party. So it's allowed. You are bound to make mistakes. You are bound to correct the mistake. The party is bound to forgive you. There is that provision in the in the constitution, and that is when we talk of what do you call it now? Waivers.
Mm.
You can come back after, though you are, when you come back, you have to stay in the party for another 6 months to observe, to take notes, know if actually you are there's repentance. But there are some situations whereby once you come in, we trust you, we waiver to contest. So it's normal. It's part of human relations. It's even allowed in the holy books. Once you are able to confess, once you are able to repent, then you come back to the fold.
Yes, we did say at the beginning of the program that we were going to take on a national coloration sort of. You mentioned something just now, that some persons left your party and walked against President Jonathan. This morning on the newspaper review, Governor Wike of Rivers State categorically mentioned that your candidate in next year's presidential election betrayed the party and its candidate, and now he's leading your campaign for next year to return to power. But there's still some issues. There are still some issues that are bedeviling your party, the G5, the IPDP. What are your chances with all of this crisis?
I will not shy away from the fact that we have crisis, we have issues. I'm a practical politician and I'm a journalist that will not turn lies to the truth. We have crisis. Our only hope is that this crisis will be resolved before we go into the election.
What if they are not?
It's hypothetical. In politics, 24 hours is a long time. We can end this crisis, with just a single meeting or just a single understanding among the leadership. So if you are now saying, what if it is not resolved? I believe it will be resolved. So if it's hypothetical, I agree we have crisis. I agree we have issues. There is misunderstanding, among the leadership. But in politics, 24 hours is a long time. Anything can happen. The more you look, the less you see.
The more you look, the less you see.
Yes.
We're still talking about your party at the national level.
Yes.
There seemed to be a breach from what some of these governors have been saying in terms of agreement. Over the weekend, Wike kept insisting that there was an agreement for the presidency to be zoned to a particular area. Governor Samuel Otom of Benue was saying that there was an agreement for the vice presidential candidate, and there was also an agreement that two persons from the same region cannot head the party at presidential candidate level and national chairman level. These breaches, how do they speak to the integrity of the people leading your party?
It is an issue. I agree with you. It's an integrity failure on our party. And when I talk of resolution, you never can say anybody can look at it that, my singular action as the chairman of the party is causing crisis. My singular action of not, keeping to an agreement to resign if a presidential candidate is zoned to my area is causing crisis. People can turn a new leaf at any point in time. We are only praying for that thinking that my personal interest or ambition should not override the general interest of Nigerians and the party. That is our prayer point. And at any point in time, it will come to pass. Not only that, we are also praying on the side of Wike that God will soften their mind to accept whatever they know or whatever it is clear that it can, we cannot achieve. There's always that thinking that, well, if I can't beat them, I should join them. If your agitation has been that you cannot have the chairman from the north and the presidential candidate from the north, and the majority of PDP have chosen that line, well, just let me take it as the majority has said. At times, majority may be at fault. Minority will only have their say. Majority will have their way. So if the majority have it their way, and I'm saying the right thing, let me join the majority. That's another prayer point. So whichever God answers our prayers, we believe our party will still come, we still resolve this issue before we go into the 2023 election.
Okay, so, but don't you think that, as some people have insinuated, it appears that Wiki and the G5 are working perhaps with opposition forces, that their ultimate game plan is to ensure that Atiku loses the election. Perhaps Gedide will be your Tinubu as president. Have you thought about the crisis in your party in that direction?
Let me tell you that I happen to be Wiki's point man in Osun. I am his coordinator in Osun State. And I participated in many meetings pre the primary election. His mindset was to become the governor, the president. Nothing more than that. At that time, nobody would accuse him of working or for the opposition. At another point in time, when people said, okay, if you can't make number one, make do with number two. Even when he refused that he wasn't ready to take the position of the vice presidency, a lot of people persuaded him, and we were to put in the arrangements to formalize it when another issue came up with Okowa being selected. Double disappointment. The third now is, okay, let's continue. But there is an issue here. The president is from the north, the chairman is from the north. Who will be on the table when positions are being distributed among the zones? We don't have representative there. Let's have the chairman. And let the chairman fulfill his promise, knowing fully well the implication of having the two powerful people from the same zone. So he was able to use that, to draw home his points. If people now, as I'm talking to you right now, I can say that though he is aggrieved, but nobody will say clearly that he's working against the party. Because according to him,
yes,